And body positivity did help me lose weight. It absolutely did. Loving myself at my size and not hating my body helped me do different things, right? And I think that ultimately encouraging everybody to embrace themselves is going to be better long term. Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for another episode of True Tea. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode. I've really loved all of the comments that I've been getting on my True Tea episodes. I love going through, all the comments while I'm in the back of an Uber and just responding to people. Some of y'all are clapping back at me. I'm clapping back a little bit low key, but I really enjoy that we can have that discussion. And I really just want to thank my comment moderators who have been making things, nice and clean on my channel, and all the people that have stepped forward and left like lengthy, long, chunky, heavy comments, with multiple paragraphs and proper grammar and all that stuff. I appreciate that a lot. You guys have made my YouTube channel feel a lot more warm and welcoming, and I just really wanted to tell you guys thank you from the bottom of my heart for the continued support. Quick church announcements before we jump into this. I'm going to be at VidCon. I'm going to be doing a fan meeting at VidCon, and I will also be coming out with some exclusive merch at VidCon. So if you're at VidCon and you want, some merchy merch, and you want to hang out with me and have a conversation, just join us, at VidCon. Keep your eyes open. I will be talking a little bit more about merch on this channel as the time gets closer and closer. So yeah. Anyway, I'm a little nervous about having this conversation. I've tried to record this video several times. So much like I always suggest we do before we get into these long ass conversations, go to your kitchen, get yourself some tea. It'll help you decompose. Now, personally, I am drinking some jade citrus tea. Love it. I love Teavana. I have a question for those of you guys who also love Teavana. What are your favorite Teavana flavors? Because I've tried lavender citrus, peach tranquility, and jade citrus right now, and it's really delicious, and I love it. But I want to know what my other options are. So what are your favorite Teavana teas? So yeah, leave that in the comment box below, or just tea suggestions in general, honestly. I'm trying to go through all of my tea before I start buying new things, I'm trying to Marie Kondo my life and not have it too cluttered, So let me know what your other favorite teas from Teavana are, just in case I feel like switching it up a bit. So we are going to be talking about something that a lot of you guys have been trying to get me to talk about. And I've honestly recorded this video like 20 times. This is a rough conversation for me to have. And it's rough for me because I have a lot of discomfort around these discussions. And so every time I try to film a video, it just never goes well. So here we go. We are going to be talking about weight loss, and specifically my weight loss, and how for me it has not been that fun. Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. Weight loss, it's a thing that we celebrate in this society. When someone starts losing weight, it is a net positive, and we're very excited about it. And ultimately, I'm happy with a lot of the changes that have come with my body. But I've been experiencing a lot of weirdness, and I'm starting to feel a little lost, and I just kind of wanted to sort of share those feelings with you guys, because I know that this is not typically what you hear when people discuss weight loss, right? So I'll just tell you guys a little bit about me. I'm not going to come to you and say, since I was a teenager, I struggled with my weight, because to be honest with you guys, I always understood that I was bigger than everybody else. And I'm not going to say that there weren't any days, there weren't any insecurities and, teasing and things like that. I went through all of that. That's all definitely part of it. But to be completely honest with you guys, and I know this might be shocking to some people, I always kind of low-key looked at the mirror and been like, damn, she looks cute. I've always really liked myself. And I've, of course, gone through my little discomforts with my body or whatever. But I've always really liked myself. And I think actually me getting to that point where I like my body was very much, I think I was really kind of settled in this idea that my body wasn't going to change, so I need to accept it the way that it is. If that makes any sense. I don't really know if that's making the most sense, but as a disclaimer, side note, quick disclaimer, we have to do one. We need to do one at least once a video. I'm going to use language and say things in ways that I know some people aren't going to like. Y'all are gonna be upset. Some people aren't gonna enjoy it. It's not gonna be the most hashtag woke language. But in these conversations of true tea, I'm trying to be my most honest, my most real, my most raw, even if I'm wrong, problematic, incorrect, whatever, and always feel like you can correct me. But I wanted to just speak freely. So I'm not saying don't correct me if I slip up, but I'm saying, girl, we're gonna be using the language I wanna use, okay? That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. So anyway, I guess I thought that my body wouldn't change. I guess I sort of got to this point where I really accepted and embraced myself as a larger person and learned that I just kind of had to exist in that way. When I've been trying to record this video, I've been trying to focus a lot on body positivity because obviously body positivity has been part of my platform. I mean, it's not the most apparent part of my platform, but it is part of my platform, learning to love myself and learning to love my body was a process, right? And like I said, I look in the mirror and I said, that's a cute ass girl. But what's been happening recently is my body is changing, and that is more, I guess, frustrating than I thought it would be. When I was younger, I dealt with a lot of my father yelling and screaming at me because I wasn't thin enough, right? My dad decided to become my soccer coach, even though that man had never played a day of soccer. My dad is from Boston. He doesn't play soccer. He wanted me to do football and all that stuff, but y'all know that wouldn't have worked. But my dad decided to become the soccer coach because soccer for me in my mind back then was so like unisex and gender neutral, and all my girlfriends were in soccer. And so I was like, I want to do soccer too. My dad, who knew nothing about soccer, decided to become my soccer coach. And so my dad really decided to do that because he wanted to yell at me and tell me to work out. And I'll be honest and say that I had a very unhealthy view of my body for a while, which is why I had to eventually work to a point where I was liking myself, because my dad used to not make me feel very good about my body. And that translated into a lot of other things that I do not want to focus on this video. I mean, I dealt with a lot of weirdness around what my body looked like. I mean, obviously as a trans person, I dealt with that too. And I've talked about this briefly in other videos, but when I was a teenager, I started to develop breasts, and that made PE very awkward for me because I was in the boys' locker room with boobs. And that meant that I was getting, groped a lot. And so PE became a really sort of frustrating space for me to be in. And so I didn't have the most healthy relationship with working out, because for me, those spaces, gyms and things have always been so gendered. And because of that, for many, I mean, right now I probably wouldn't care as much, but back then those spaces being so gendered made me feel really odd because I was such a feminine thing in this group of young teenage boys who were going through hormones and didn't understand the boobs on me, And so that was really rough. And so I didn't really have the best relationship with working out, right? And, I kind of, for a really long time, when it came to me working out and, exercising, I never really did it for myself. I always did it for my father or for men. I mean, college is really funny because I remember being in college and not liking myself a lot and thinking, oh my gosh, I am just so big. I am just so big, right? And a lot of the men that I would date or tried to date would kind of tell me that I was fat. And whenever we'd have an argument, they would tell me that I was fat. When I was younger, I was just very impressionable. And when they would say things like that, I would take it to heart. And it's so funny because after I got out of college and I looked at old photos of myself in college, I was so skinny. I was so skinny that it was like, it was interesting to think that at some point I thought that I was massive when I wasn't. I was not massive by any means. I wasn't, this teeny tiny thin girl, but I was definitely not, massive, right? And that's the weird thing too. I mean, like even going through high school and stuff, it's like that BMI stuff, like, yes, I was larger than other people, but I wasn't necessarily unhealthy. Do you know what I mean? And so that was kind of a frustrating thing for me too, kind of looking back, especially at my college years and my high school years, and recognizing, oh, I wasn't really that overweight, right? So getting out of college, I met my ex, right? And this was a man I fell in love with, the first man that I ever fell in love with. And I don't want to project anything onto him, and I might totally be wrong about this, but when I look back at my relationship, I feel like my ex was a little bit of a feeder. I feel like my ex was a chef. He loved to cook, and he always cooked like these really hearty, really intense meals, right? And so I gained a lot of weight. And then at the same time, I was also on injectable hormones. And so every time I would go into the doctor, it'd be like I gained like 30 pounds, you know, every single time. Like that scale got up and up and up and up. And I think at my highest weight, I was almost 300 pounds, right? And yeah, that was scary for me, but I didn't really, I guess when I'm sitting in it, I didn't really notice, you know, I didn't really notice a weight gain, right? I noticed those numbers, but I didn't really notice the weight gain, right? And so I kind of didn't really pay that much attention to those numbers. Now, back then, I was also in a place where, because of my relationship, because of where I lived, I didn't really go out and have friends, and I focused mostly on my YouTube channel. I was hyper focused on creating content. And we're not gonna get into the conversation about why maybe being in that space wasn't very healthy for me. You'll watch the rebranding video, the video that I made about the rebranding of this channel if you want to know a little bit more about the unhealthy cycle that I was in when I was living with my ex and working on this YouTube stuff. But long story short, I wasn't very active, and my ex would always come home and he would have candy. Now, my ex's love language was gift giving, right? The way that he expressed love to me was through cooking me food and through bringing me candy and through giving me sodas and things. And there was always these times throughout our relationship where I wanted to do something different, you know, where I wanted to maybe not drink sugary things. And there was a time where I went vegan, and, you know, there was a time where I went ketogenic, right? And making those changes it was so hard to do with him because, you know, my ex, he worked in a vegan restaurant. He wanted to come home and cook, you know, the most hearty, carbohydrated food ever, right? And so it was really hard for me to make any sort of changes, right? And there would be times where he would bring me candy and bring me, you know, like sugary teas and things like that. And there was like a month where I was like, I'm not gonna drink anything but water. And so what would happen is he would bring me home these teas, and I would put the tea aside because I wasn't trying to drink any sugary, you know, drinks I don't need to drink. And then that would become an issue where, you know, he would make me feel bad for not drinking the things that he purchased me or not eating the things that he made for me, right? And so making any sort of dietary change was really, really, really hard, right? So my body and stuff started to change after I went to VidCon and I met this guy who was a trainer. And I have always sort of wanted to get back into working out, but I just didn't really have, I guess, that push. And to be completely honest with you guys, working out and going to the gym has always been a big place of insecurity and fear for me because, again, like, I have those memories of being a teenager in the boys' locker room with breasts and the awkwardness that happened with that. I didn't know how I would fit into, you know, being in a gym or going to a workout centric space because I probably would have to run into that issue of, you know, not being a cis woman, but maybe looking like one, right? You know, and of course I can now look at this and think, okay, that was maybe an excuse. Not that it wasn't a valid concern, but it was kind of a little bit of an excuse. And I was really used to giving myself a lot of excuses, right? I was used to telling myself that I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do that, or, you know, maybe this isn't important, I'll do it another day. I mean, I would always do this thing where I was like, I'm gonna start a new diet, I'm gonna start it next week, and I never would start the new diet. And so when I met him, he was very, I don't wanna say pushy, but a little pushy. And I was really wanting to do something different, you know. This is around the time where, I mean, I was going to more YouTube-y things. I was being more of a YouTuber, and I was starting to think a little bit more about my image. And so I decided to, like, you know, just rip the bandage off and just do it, right? And so we started working out, and it was really rough at first because I was not used to working out. I was not used to working out. And working out with him, it was really great because I had someone there to sort of push me, right? And slowly but surely, things became easier and easier and easier, right? And around this time, I also decided to actually try to go ketogenic. Now, I went on a keto diet, and honestly, I'll just be real. I I wanted to get some fat off of my tummy. And I looked up diets that would help me do that. And then I decided to go keto because that's one of the things that popped up. And so I went keto, and honestly, keto was fine. The food was really hearty. I really love the food. I did dietdoctors.com. They give you like a set menu that you're supposed to work off of. And it was fine, but I was passing out all the time. I was passing out all the time, right? And for me, that was just my body telling me, don't do this. This is not what you should be doing, right? And so, I stopped being keto. And it was easy for me to stop being keto because my partner wasn't. And when eventually I broke up with him and I moved to Los Angeles, I decided to go ketogenic again, but much of the same thing. But this time around, some things changed because I could actually buy my own food, right? Like living alone and living in my own space, I have no reason not to eat certain things. I have everything that's in this space is something that I've put in it, And so I had a lot of excuses. My partner wasn't keto, and maybe that's why I wasn't either. But this time around, I really didn't have an excuse anymore, So I tried it. It didn't really work out for me. I kept passing out still, but I definitely internalized a lot of those sort of things, not eating a lot of breads. And if you go out to get drinks, if you have to get a cocktail, get, a vodka soda or maybe some red wine, which is why I drink red wine. And so I kind of stuck to a lot of those things. And that's when I really started to notice changes. Now, the changes that I noticed were very interesting to me because I had not really felt this way before. When I was living with my ex, we would almost nonstop eat a lot of fast food, right? We would eat these big burgers, all the time, and fries, and we would go to Carl's Jr. because there's Carl's Jr. right down the street, and sometimes we didn't want to cook. My ex was Italian, and his mom would always make lasagna and give it to us, We ate a lot of very big, hearty, carby foods. And once I started to actually change what I was eating, it was interesting because I felt that I was desiring those things a lot less, So I would go and order a burger and I maybe would eat the whole burger, but I wouldn't eat the fries, right? And that was an interesting thing for me to notice that like my body didn't want this, I remember there was a time last VidCon actually, where we got like a little Starbucks card to get some stuff at the store, right? And I got like the sugary, frappuccinos that I would always get. And it was just so sticky, disgusting sweet. It was so just sweet. And I did not want it, right? And so what I actually started to desire changed, right? What I actually started to want in my body started to change a lot, right? And so as a result of that, I've been losing a lot of weight, and that has been interesting for me. Now, I kind of told you guys, I went through all that whole story, right? But I want to make it clear that a lot of the changes that happened were not changes that happened out of me hating myself. Like I said, I like my body, I like myself, but I just want to do something different. I've always enjoyed trying new things and seeing if they stick and seeing if they're things that I want to incorporate into my life, right? And honestly, when I moved out here, I was like, I can be in more control of my diet, right? And so I started like making my own stuff, and I just changed what I was eating, and that definitely resulted in me losing weight. And it wasn't like I was trying to lose weight because I thought, oh my gosh, my body is so terrible and I'm just so fat and ugly and this is just so bad. It was more like I wanted to do something different. And as I did different things, it felt better for me. I felt better. Working out made me feel better. When I started having a normal, semi-normal, let me not lie. I do like one training session a week with my trainer. And that's it. I wish I had a more regular working schedule, but just that alone, having a more normal, regular workout schedule changed my sleeping habits. I used to be such a bad insomniac where I would stay up so late. And when you work like I do, you work for yourself, you really have no reason to go to bed at a decent time. But now when I start working out, I start to find that I was going to bed at a reasonable time all the time. And I felt better, right? I just felt better, right? And working out, I was able to build up my strength a little bit. And I was able to sort of work out. And you guys know I'm always talking about the apocalypse, and low key when my trainer and I started to train, he was like, what are your goals? And I was like, I want to survive the apocalypse. I watch way too much Walking Dead, and I'm always thinking about, well, what if I need to climb up a gate or something, and I couldn't do that. And so a lot of our workouts were kind of, we do calisthenics. It was very much focused on that. And it was just me wanting to do more and actually function better, right? I watched a lot of K-pop. I want to be able to do these K-pop dances, right? It wasn't me trying to do these changes because, oh my gosh, my large body isn't valid. It was more like, I want to do these things that continue to make me feel better. And, like I said, one of the side effects of that is I have lost weight. So now, as of now, I've lost about 40 pounds, probably more, but that last time I checked, it was about 40 pounds. And let's get now to the downside of that, because I do feel better. I do feel better than I did years ago. So many things feel better for me, right? But some things have changed, right? So I'm the kind of person, not all the time, but sometimes, especially like if I'm doing a talk or something, I really need to have everything on point. And if I don't have everything on point, it's hard for me to walk into a situation with confidence, And so, I'm used to having dresses that I like to wear, my nails looking like this, my shoes fitting like that, and da-da-da-da. And the feeling of clothes that just fit me is like, it gives me so much relief, right? And one of the first things I started to notice was that the clothes that I used to wear that were like tight, sexy clothes did not fit me anymore. And it was a really bizarre feeling because even though I understood that I had lost weight, I didn't feel different. I didn't feel like I had lost weight. I mean, I obviously knew that I had, but I still kind of saw myself in the same way. And to be honest with you guys, if I hadn't been taking so many photos of myself, I wouldn't actually see my weight loss. If I wasn't on camera so much, I wouldn't actually see my weight loss, right? And so putting on clothes that like don't fit me anymore, but used to fit me really well, it was I can't even describe it. It was just a very unsettling feeling. It was like, almost like whose body is this almost, And around that time where my clothes started fitting, I also became really, really, really broke. I don't talk about this enough, but I'm very broke. And obviously I'm someone who goes out a lot. I like to socialize. I like to be out of here. And so I needed new clothes, but I couldn't afford new clothes. So that's when I started actually sewing again. Some of you guys who follow me on Twitter, you know that I sew. And I've been doing that because I can't afford to buy new clothes. And so actually I made this outfit that I'm wearing right now. Actually I made the skirt this morning and the top last night. And I just needed clothes that fit me. I just wanted that feeling of clothes that like actually fit my body, and not having that it really messed with my head. It really, really, really messed with my head. So actually I've been feeling a lot more human now that I have clothes that fit me. Now, of course, I've had to sew all of them, which is cool in some ways, but frustrating in another. I mean, look, I went to the store the other day. Cause I have like 3 skirts that fit me right now, and 2 of them fit after I'd like taken them in. And so I went to the same store that I always go to get clothes, and I'm so used to walking into the plus size section. I'm so used to walking into the section with the clothes that I've always been fitting in. A lot of times for me with plus size clothes, really the only clothes that are in my style that usually come out in the fall. I like a lot of velvet and leather and black, and so fall is usually when they try to sell those types of clothes. And they didn't have that last time I went to the store. I was looking specifically for a black skirt because I had this like really cute zip-up black skirt that like no longer fit me anymore, and the zipper had broken. It was just time for me to get something new, right? And none of the clothes fit me. And it's this weird thing where I don't even know if I'm quite out of the plus size range, but I know that everything I tried on did not fit. And it was a really frustrating experience because I'm so used to picking up, you know, that size and trying it on and it fitting, that like when it doesn't happen, it just felt really weird to me. And I don't even know what size I am. Like I have no idea what size I am, you know? So one of the benefits of me actually sewing my own clothes is that they're tailored to fit my body, right? But it would be nice to actually go and buy clothes off the rack, right? I can't afford it now, but it is what it is. I make do, you know? But anyway, that was a really weird thing. And then just how people react to me is very weird as well. I think the way that people react to me is the thing that's gotten to me the most. Because, you know, in my poly community, for example, there are a lot of people who have seen me for the past year and have clearly seen me lose weight. And it's one of these things with, I think, because I keep losing weight, like I keep losing weight. And so every time I go to an event, and a lot of the events I go to, they are very, I go to a lot of events where people are naked, let's put it that way, or very scantily clad, right? And so people do notice body changes. And, you know, people notice the difference in my body. And it gets complimented on all the time. I mean, people are always telling me that I look so good now. I look so much better, and, you know, ooh, did you lose weight, and it's always framed as a positive. And that's something I've had a hard time dealing with because, like I said, I've always really liked my body and I've always really liked myself, right? And so to have people suggest that a thinner me is a better me, it does mess with my head a lot. And it messes with my head a lot, especially now, because when I was bigger, like I said, when I would gain weight, I didn't really notice it. But as I'm a smaller person now, when I gain weight, I notice it. I very much notice it. And I'm also the sort of person, unfortunately, who sometimes when I go out and I get complimented on something a lot, I will change myself, you know? So for example, I haven't been wearing my glasses recently, right? And why have I not been wearing my glasses recently? Well, because I wanted to, you know, not have glasses on camera. Filming is a lot easier without glasses. But when I stopped wearing them, like when I just tried to wear contacts, I got complimented a lot, right? And so I stuck to it since apparently I look good without my glasses, right? And unfortunately, like when it comes to my weight loss, when people have suggested that I look good or I look better now, it's made me hyper aware of it in a way that isn't, I don't think, healthy. You know, like where I will, like, so this couple of weeks ago, I went to this party, right? And it was a party, it was a mermaid, I went to a mermaid themed orgy, okay? I went to a mermaid themed orgy. And I made my costume for it and everything. I was really excited. But I was also very aware of how big my tummy was, right? And so I was telling myself, oh, I shouldn't eat this and I shouldn't eat that because I don't want my tummy to look big when I'm at this event, right? And it's so weird because that's something I would have never said to myself when I was a larger size. I wouldn't say, don't eat this because this is gonna be the result. And so I can feel within myself the already unhealthy body negative sort of things popping up where I'm shaming my body for changing, and I'm shaming my hunger for certain things because I've started to, as people have told me I look better, equate a thin body with a better body, right? And I want to be very transparent about that. I don't want to come here and lie to you guys and be like, yeah, everything's fine. And it's odd because I like my body. You know, I believe that my body larger is valid as, you know, in the same way that my body smaller is valid. But people will react to me differently, and that started to mess with my mind. There was a guy who had basically used me for sex, right? And he had sort of communicated to me after he had sex with me. This was in my poly community. After he had sex with me, that he wasn't attracted to me, right? And this was when I was a little larger, right? This is about a year ago. And now that I've been losing weight, he's like, oh, you look great. You look really good. Always complimenting me and flirting with me. And it's such an odd, upsetting experience because you've already hurt me in this one way that, is very deep. And now I have to see you at all these events. But now you're like complimenting me. Now that I've lost weight, suddenly you're interested. And that just really messes with me. And I already feel the ways in which I've moved slightly more into desirability because I'm a little bit thinner than I used to be, right? Whereas before people didn't really see me in a certain light. Now that I'm thinner, people notice it. And it's this weird thing where, again, I don't want that thing in my mind of a thinner body is a better body, right? And so even my feelings around body positivity, it's really odd and unsettling because I'm starting to feel these ways that I know are not healthy, right? And then, I'll be honest with you. This is another thing, and this is going to sound really bad, but even as I start losing weight, sometimes I'll think, why aren't other people losing weight? Why aren't other people doing this? If you could just change this and change that, I feel so much better. So why don't they make those choices and changes, right? And it's that thing that you catch, that thing I'm catching myself feeling that is terrible, is based in in body negativity. But those thoughts are coming up. And so losing weight has been just a complicated journey for me because I like the changes I have, but I'm still trying to find that body positivity again. Because as my body changes, a lot of my thoughts about losing weight and working out have started to change as well. And I recognize that they're not necessarily the best ones, right? Losing weight is complicated. I'm still dealing with a lot of that stuff. But for me, if anything, I know that I feel better. I know that I do feel better now than I did before. And that's what it's all about for me. One thing I wanted to really communicate is when my father was yelling at me and making me feel like I wasn't loved because I wasn't thin, that didn't make me want to lose weight. It maybe did. It made me want to lose weight so that I could, gain his favor, but it never lasted. When men called me fat and told me that I needed to lose weight in order to be desirable to them, that didn't make me lose weight. I might have started a diet, I might have started to work out, but it didn't last, Because a lot of times when we have these conversations about body positivity, people say, you're just enabling obesity, you're just enabling this or that. For me personally, I couldn't even start to think about making changes in my life without loving my body the way that it was. I couldn't, do you know what I mean? If I started to do exercise and working out in the context of hating myself and wanting to appeal to this standard, it would not have been a healthy thing for me to do. It would not have been a healthy space for me to be. It would not have lasted. The changes that I've made in my life are purely based on me saying, you know what? I want to do something different. I want to be stronger. I want to be able to eat different types of food. I just want to change. And because of that, it's been sustainable. It's been sustainable for me because I've done it for myself and not for anyone else, right? So yeah, I feel like I have nothing else. I can't believe I managed to film this video. I can't believe I managed to get this video out of my system. It's been hard for me to talk about this because I know this may sound very confusing to some of you guys, but I have a lot of issues around image and beauty, right? I don't understand why beauty is a thing I owe somebody. I don't understand why thinness is something that I owe someone. I don't understand why when someone finds me attractive or when someone, doesn't find me attractive, why that is the scale in which I am measured by. It's a very frustrating position for me to be in as a YouTuber who has a face and is an influencer, right? And for some people is looked up to. A lot of you guys know that for me, I want to be remembered for my work, not my body or my face or my beauty, right? So I have a lot of issues around that. And that's why it was so hard for me to talk about, because I hate the idea of commodifying my appearance. I hate the idea of that being a thing that I owe someone. I hate the idea that if I come on camera without makeup, some people will feel some type of way about it, or it will show that I'm not really invested in what I'm doing here that doesn't rely on me having makeup on, you know? So I have a lot of issues around that. Maybe I'll do a whole other video about that because honestly, I change my appearance a lot. If you've been paying attention, I change my hair color all the time, change my style all the time, and I really like that, but that's all for me. You know, it's all for me. It's not for anyone else. And so sometimes when people have to, like, when I start braiding my hair, people are always saying, oh girl, those braids, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, da 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 da. And it was like, I don't want to hear that, you know, because it's not something I'm doing for you, you know. I'm not wearing this wig so that you can be entertained. My work has never been about what I look like. It's never been about what, you know, how much beauty I'm selling you or giving to you. It's always been about what I'm working on as, you know, in my mind and my philosophies and the work that I'm trying to push forward in terms of anti-racism and fighting against transphobia, fighting against sexism, that's what it's all been about. And so I've always had an issue discussing image. So I'm glad I managed to get it out, even though I'm sure I said a lot of things people didn't like. You know, that's what this series is about, me being honest and real and not bullshitting you. I think one of the ways in which I had a hard time making this video was because I was trying really hard to wrap it up in a message of body positivity. And body positivity did help me lose weight. It absolutely did. Loving myself at my size and not hating my body helped me do different things, right? And I think that ultimately encouraging everybody to embrace themselves is going to be better long-term, you know, for everyone. I mean, even for people who don't want to or don't plan on losing weight, I think that's the better position to take, right? You know, but I know that I need to start making these types of videos, not so that I can confirm how you guys feel or say what you want me to say, but just say how I feel. And I'm acknowledging that some of the thought processes I've been having lately have not been good ones. And so I'm actually very curious to hear from those of you guys, specifically women. I mean, obviously men, you're always welcome to chime in, but I'm very much interested in women. How do you navigate around this? What do you do? You know, because it's weird to me how me losing weight has meant something to other people that it doesn't mean to me. It's just been a very bizarre thing for me to sort of experience. This, like, me losing weight is supposed to say something about me as a person, but then also say something about, you know, how much I care about certain things. I don't get it. So anyway, on that note, I will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really appreciate all comments. I will be pinning my favorite comment or the comment that makes me think the most. Right now, you are looking at 2 fun new videos that you can also watch. I would love if you stayed on this channel and kept watching True Tea. We do have a lot of very interesting, weird conversations about a lot of different things. So if you're interested, click on any one of these videos. And if you're not, I will see you next week. Bye.